You are live. Welcome to the show. It is Sunday, August 16th, 2026. I hope everybody's doing well. We got work tomorrow. That's how it goes, right? Going into the work week. Weekends are short, but we still got a show to do. So let's get into it. I almost didn't cover this topic. I was thinking about it all week, but everybody has an opinion on it. And I'd like to chime in. Now, the topic here is that the WNBA just needs a clear rule. Remove the ambiguity, stop people from guessing, keep people from opining, and just establish what the rules are going to be for your league. Because now, dragging the transgender eligibility debate into the discussion, even though no transgender woman has ever played in the league, does what for the popularity of the league? Well, we're talking about it, so maybe it does help. But a lot of people are turning their backs on the sport. Now, I'm not saying that we should necessarily care about managing the PR for the WNBA from their perspective. But what I am saying is, why have all of these rumors? Why have all of this opinion circulate around the league if they actually do know what they want? So then the question is, what do you want? How do you want this team? How do you want this league to operate? Now, this accelerated after Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham said she wanted to protect girls and biological women in sports. That sounds right to me. She's not entitled to her opinion. And by the way, if a man plays a woman, they're no longer equal, right? The reason why I struggle with this is because this is blatantly obvious. And I hate using that word, the word obvious. I've actually tried to remove it from my vocabulary over the last few years because nothing is obvious. It needs to be explained to everyone. But under no circumstance would you want a man playing versus a woman when there's money involved, when the sports league is ultra competitive as it can be. There's sports betting behind it. There's just too many implications. And if you're trying to protect the integrity of the league, why would you want a man, a biological man that changed into a woman? Why would you want that person playing into the league? Because right now there's a firestorm around the WNBA. Is that what they want? They could have easily came out and said, we don't want this in our league because we need to protect our players. That's it. Do I blame Sophie Cunningham? No, she's putting a spotlight on it. And we're going to get to the former NBA players, Enes Kanter and Royce White, then announcing that they were declaring themselves eligible for the 2027 WNBA draft. Now, neither appears to be making a genuine claim of gender transition. These were political stunts designed to expose what they see as a hole in the league's rules. But this is how it really started. The comments from Gabby Williams, she's a player in the WNBA, made on May 19th resurfaced online. Williams said she would welcome a transgender athlete as either a teammate or an opponent.
I think it's trans rights now is our new battle. That's what I think I was saying, that like the battles have changed. You know, like our team's been the same, and now that the environment has changed, we see trans people's rights being, stripped away from them. There's a lot of discourse around trans athletes and what they can compete in. I would welcome a trans athlete on my team or against my team anytime. I don't think it's a problem in the world. It's just another way to kind of attack trans people. We've seen players like Leisha Clarendon who stepped into that forefront and have been brave enough and courageous enough to kind of step up. So I guess that's the next battle that we have to fight as athletes. I think it's trans rights.
What she just said is super honorable. I totally respect her for coming out with that type of opinion, because that disposition shows compassion. However, you would want a man, a biological man, to play in the league. So then why do we have an NBA and why do we have a WNBA? I mean, again, it's difficult to cover a topic like this when we can't fundamentally agree on science. When we can't agree on basics, this is when people start pulling their hair out. I'm not going to get upset over it because I'm not in the WNBA. And this isn't affecting the NBA either. This is just discourse that's going to distract us from real problems in the world that we should be putting our attention to. Things like the war in Gaza, the war in Iran, taxes, inflation, jobs, AI. However, we're focused on a trans debate infiltrating or impacting the WNBA. And again, although what she's saying is extremely honorable, is it a service or a disservice to the NBA? It's a service to transgender people. I don't think this is a service to the WNBA. How could it be? Again, do you want biological men playing against women? I thought we were trying to promote equality in every aspect of life. That cannot be equal, right? That's why we don't play co-ed sports at the highest level. It just doesn't happen. If this were junior high school, maybe. Doesn't really count, doesn't really matter. We're talking about professional sports where people are paid millions of dollars, where sports betting is behind this. Winning matters. I mean, this is an entire business that we're talking about. So you have to protect the integrity of the sport for all the reasons. And I'm just asking, what is the WNBA's stance on this? We will approach these important conversations thoughtfully and in alignment with the values of our league. We strongly denounce the bad faith efforts to use these topics to demean or marginalize others. I completely agree. In no way, shape, or form should we be turning our backs on the transgender community. And I don't think we are. I think people are getting confused with the opinion that's circulating online that's saying this is preposterous. Again, it sounds obvious, but then again, what is? Do I think that a biological man playing against a biological woman, it doesn't matter what drugs they've taken, testosterone, estrogen, doesn't matter. Do I think they are on equal footing playing basketball? Yes or no? The answer is no. This is rhetorical, right? They couldn't possibly be on equal footing, even if the woman could potentially beat the man, and she could. But they can't be on equal footing because of the biological differences. This is why we have two separate sports leagues. This isn't about outcasting the transgender community from playing in this league. At the very least, maybe we have a trans league. This is why we have a new league that includes performance-enhancing drugs, the enhanced games. Because you want equal footing around the league. And in this case, this couldn't possibly be equal. So this isn't discrimination against trans people. We shouldn't be doing that. That's absurd. However, we're asking what makes sense for this league. And from everything that I've seen and heard from coaches, players, again, Gabby Williams, kudos to her. How can you not like her disposition? It shows that she has a heart, she's responsible, she's compassionate. If anything, I didn't even know who she was before this. I love her for this. But we come back to the point. Do you want an uneven playing field? And that's what Enes Kanter and Royce White are trying to demonstrate. Now, of course, it's insincere. And in that case, it's disparaging to the trans community. Them announcing that they were going to declare themselves eligible for the 2027 WNBA draft. What does that do? It opens the conversation. Do you think the WNBA is actually going to entertain this? No. But this was their statement. And this is a great statement, but it's not enough. You need to be declarative. If I'm the president of operations, the CEO of the WNBA, the commissioner, I'm coming out and saying, no, we can only have women in this league. Because that would tip the balance. Well, I mean, the only thing, and yes, you have to look at the slippery slope argument here. The only thing that could possibly come of this is if you allowed trans people to enter the league, then you would just open up the floodgates, because every single team would need a trans person to compete. You would need a trans player to compete. And all things considered, including the uproar, I'm not saying, who knows who's right or who's wrong, but all things considered, how do you come out with such a statement? How do you not draw a line in the sand and say, these are our rules, these are our protocols for you being eligible in the WNBA? That's not what I've heard so far. The current collective bargaining agreement says only that players who are women may play in the WNBA. It does not publicly define that term through biological sex, gender identity, testosterone levels, medical transition, or the experience of male puberty. And on August 13th, the WNBA said there is no present eligibility issue and condemned what it had called bad faith efforts to demean or marginalize people. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you will allow trans players? Then just come out and say it. Because that addresses the hostility surrounding the debate, but it does not answer the policy question. And that's why you have these bad faith actors like Enes Kanter and Royce White coming out and saying, I want to play because I want to make a point. This is precisely where the WNBA is making a mistake. It would probably just be better to be silent. Now, again, this does not require us to disrespect transgender people. We should not. They deserve dignity as much as any other human being on this planet. And again, I remind you, if you die tomorrow, how would you want to recognize how you treated people? Would you be happy that you disparaged this community? Or live and let live? These people deserve the freedom to dictate their own lives. But respect for someone's identity does not automatically determine eligibility for every protected athletic category. This is where we have to draw a line. The NBA and WNBA are separate because male and female athletes, on average, develop different physical capabilities, especially after male puberty. Height, skeletal structure, muscle mass, strength, speed, and explosive power all affect basketball performance. That's why there's only, 2 players in the WNBA that can actually dunk? Hormone treatment is going to affect that, but the scientific question is whether it removes enough of them to make elite competition fair. And that's what the league has to evaluate. What are the advantages versus disadvantages of allowing trans players to play in the WNBA? But let's be clear, Enes Kanter simply declaring himself a woman does not establish that he is transgender. And it certainly should not make him eligible for the WNBA. Self-identification, that's bullshit. And it's certainly not a professional sports policy. The WNBA needs to stop kicking rocks here, stop allowing people online and political provocateurs to define this debate. They need to come out and publish a clear rule. This, to me, is as ambiguous as anything else. They might as well have said nothing. Explain whether eligibility is based on sex, puberty, hormones, transition requirements, or some combination of those factors. Then defend that rule with evidence. My position is that the WNBA should remain a female sporting category. Full stop. That is not a declaration that transgender people are inferior or unwelcome in society. It is recognition that women's leagues exist because female athletes deserve a protected space in which sex-linked physical differences do not determine the outcome. You can defend transgender people as human beings and still defend women's sports as a female category. Those ideas are not contradictory. The WNBA should be mature enough to say both. All right, next topic. Ow, ow, chicka, chicka, wow, wow, chicka, wow, wow. Okay, America is draining its oil reserve. The United States is using about 20.6 million barrels of petroleum products every day. At the same time, we're producing around 13.8 million barrels of crude oil per day. Now, those numbers are not directly interchangeable. We don't pour crude oil directly into cars or airplanes. It has to be refined into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other products. And not every barrel of crude oil is the same. The United States produces a lot of lighter, sweeter crude, while many American refineries were designed to process heavier crude. That is why America can export some of its own oil while simultaneously importing different grades that better match what certain American refineries were built to process. Now, before the conflict with Iran, around 21.6 million barrels per day traveled through the Strait of Hormuz. During the second quarter, that collapsed to about 4.9 million barrels per day. Even if those specific barrels were not headed directly to the United States, removing that much oil from the global supply increases the price paid by everybody. That's why we have $4 oil. That's why we have $4 gas. That's primarily why we have $4 gas. And this is why the Trump administration authorized the release of 172 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Spread across roughly 120 days, that adds approximately 1.4 million barrels per day to the market. It helped prevent an even larger spike in oil prices, but America's emergency reserve has now fallen below 300 million barrels, its lowest level since 1983. For comparison, the reserve bottomed around 347 million barrels under Biden after his massive release following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, according to the experts, 300 million barrels is not an official hard minimum. Federal law does not establish one, but the Energy Department says approximately 70 million barrels must remain inside the system as a conservative operational minimum to manage the underground salt caverns safely. So, we could not simply withdraw all 300 million barrels, and even above that minimum of 70 million, and even above that minimum, it is not guaranteed that every remaining barrel could be withdrawn quickly. More than 1/4 of the reserve was recently unavailable because of cavern outages, maintenance, maintenance and construction. The reserve's aging pipelines, pumps, and wells also limit how quickly oil can be removed. Every major drawdown places additional stress on that infrastructure. So what are the alternatives? The clearest solution is a durable agreement that ends the conflict and restores reliable passage through the Strait of Hormuz. But peace talks have stalled. The United States is discussing additional economic sanctions, and the attacks on commercial shipping have continued. On August 14, the United Arab Emirates accused Iran of attacking another vessel operated by its state-owned oil company while it was passing through Hormuz. That was the third attack on an ADNOC vessel within 1 week. Iran has not accepted responsibility for those attacks. We could provide military protection and insurance for tankers, but that does not eliminate the threat of drones, missiles, mines, or other escalation. Third, Saudi Arabia and the UAE could reroute some oil through pipelines, but those pipelines cannot replace everything that normally travels through Hormuz. So American producers can drill additional wells, but meaningful new production takes time. Other countries can release their emergency reserves, but that only gives us another temporary supply of oil to drain. So in the immediate future, if the conflict is not resolved with Iran and reliable shipping is not restored, there does not appear to be an alternative capable of replacing all that missing oil. It doesn't matter what we do with bombing Iran. It doesn't matter what we do with applying economic pressure. The only resolution right now that we have is to end this conflict and have the oil flow again through the Strait of Hormuz. Because eventually, the only thing that could occur if we do not resolve this conflict is demand destruction. That means oil prices will rise until people drive less, airlines cut flights, businesses reduce production, and consumers spend less money. Economic activity will slow because energy has become too expensive. That does not mathematically guarantee that the stock market crashes, but if demand has to fall enough to offset millions of missing barrels, it would be very difficult for that to happen without damaging the economy and pressuring stocks. So now we come to it, and that brings us to the market. Brent crude is currently in the high 80s. Ask yourself, does oil have a better chance of falling substantially from here or returning above $100 if the conflict escalates? Iran remains dissatisfied, sanctions are being discussed, tankers are still being attacked, and we cannot rule out another American military strike between now and the end of the year. So, if you believe another attack on Iran is imminent, why would you remain completely exposed to the stock market while waiting for it to happen? Oil moving above $100 could raise gasoline and transportation costs, increase inflation, restrict the Federal Reserve's ability to cut interest rates, squeeze corporate margins, and reduce consumer spending. Above all else, everyone's going to get frightened and the market will sell off. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 is already around 7,800. JP Morgan's year-end target is 8,000. Citibank's is 8,100. A number of Wall Street forecasts are now clustered around that range. Do you think we can get there? I do. What's that? Another 5%? And if you do believe in those forecasts, we may only have another 2, 3, or 4% of expected upside. The market could reach 8,000 in a few trunks. The market could reach 8,000 in a few strong trading sessions. What's that take? 2 or 3 days? But we still have 4 remaining months of the year. But we still have 4 remaining months in the year. So why would you take on that risk? Compare that with the possibility of a 5% pullback if oil returns above $100. If oil returns above $100. I mean, do you think that the conflict will escalate from here? Or do you think we're on track for a resolution? Now you got to ask. Now you have to ask yourself a basic question on risk. Why would you take a chance for a possible 5 or 10% decline to chase the final 2 or 3% of a rally? If you believe the market is going to 8,000 or 8,100, you could take some money off the table, reduce your exposure, and raise cash. Or if you strongly believe America will attack Iran again, you could move largely into cash and wait. You could move largely into cash and wait for the market to give you a better entry point. Yes, the market could continue rising, and you might miss some upside. You'll never sell at the top, but that is the risk, right? You have to remember that cash is also a position. You would be giving up some potential upside in exchange for protection and the ability to buy after a pullback. There's no need to buy option. There's no need to buy put options or hedge your risk with another derivative. You can take some money off the table, wait for volatility to resume. Maybe the conflict actually resolves itself, and then you can jump back in. But if you think between now and the end of the year, 4 more months, that we're going to have lower volatility, that we're not going to attack Iran again, that oil prices are going to remain stable, then I guess you can stay invested. If you think any one of those items could be true, then I would take some money off the table. Wait for a 5% pullback and reinvest. If the market falls 5%, you buy back at a discount. If it trades sideways, earnings have time to catch up with prices. And if nothing happens and stocks continue climbing, you still protected the gains you already made. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is approaching uncomfortable levels. That's according to the experts. Tankers are still being attacked. The alternatives cannot replace the missing oil quickly enough, and the best solution depends on ending a conflict that does not appear close to a durable resolution. With the market already sitting near Wall Street's year-end targets, I would rather hold cash and wait for the next opportunity than remain fully invested and hope nothing else goes wrong. So yes, right now, I'm looking to get out of the market, wait for a 5% pullback, and then hopefully jump in between now and the end of the year and continue on to all-time highs, hopefully around the 8,000 level. That to me is probably the most prudent thing to do. All right, let's get into the next topic. Okay, so these are the next 10 technologies that could come after the smartphone. Now, I believe this entire world is about to change. Not just our technology, but our culture, our jobs, our homes, the way we communicate, and the way we move through everyday life. We are heading toward a futuristic society with artificial intelligence embedded everywhere and robots working in our homes, businesses, factories, hospitals, and public spaces. Now, I'm excited about it. I'm a bit skeptical too. These systems will know more about us, watch more or all of our lives, and make virtually every decision on our behalf. That's exciting, but it's also a little daunting. Before we reach a world filled with robots, we're still going to need a go-between, a new interface, if you will, a device sitting somewhere between the iPhone, the wearable, and the personal computer. Right now we have these, we have our laptops, and we have our iPhones. There's something missing because we have to stay glued to these screens. Maybe it comes from OpenAI, maybe it's Apple, Meta, Hark, or a company that doesn't exist yet. It could be something we wear, something we carry, or several connected products working together. The larger objective is to reduce our reliance on screens. Instead of opening a phone every time we need directions, information, communication, entertainment, or assistance, these devices could distribute those functions across our bodies, homes, cars, computers, and eventually robots. They could also perform tasks from beginning to end. You wouldn't open an airline app, compare flights, enter your information, select the seat, and complete the payment yourself. You would say, find me a nonstop flight to Montana next Friday, keep it under $600, give me an aisle seat, and use my travel credit. The AI agent would research the options, complete the transaction, place the itinerary on your calendar, and arrange transportation to the airport. That is end-to-end computing. You state the objective, and the system handles the individual steps. Now, an enormous amount of money will need to be invested in building this infrastructure, and that's ongoing. The devices, chips, AI models, robots, batteries, sensors, software, networks, and energy systems behind it. But these are 10 of the strongest possibilities for what comes next. I mean, that's incredible. Do you have any doubts that these robots are going to be extremely precise? I mean, think about all of the little things, the nuance in life, right? I keep my house clean. I clean it myself. I used to have a cleaning person, but I clean it myself. Do I clean every corner of everything? Do I dust everything? No, but if I have a robot, it's going to be unlimited. They've already launched robot cleaning services around the world. However, they have to be monitored by humans. It's extremely expensive. Not the cleaning itself. It's totally experimental, but it's just too expensive, right? It's not feasible right now to take to market. But we're going to get there. It's super close. Now, this robot is about to put things into the laundry, how it identifies what's worn versus what's not, what's dirty versus what's not. Like, I never wash my jeans, so I would have to tell my robot, hey, don't wash my jeans, because I don't wash my jeans. And it should know that, okay, don't wash his jeans, right? My wife, yeah, it's gonna have to, she likes to wash her jeans. So, okay, you gotta wash her jeans, not my jeans. And if you mix up the jeans, I'm coming after you, robot. I mean, this is gonna be incredible. I mean, think about this next layer of convenience. It's going to free us up to do virtually anything we want. I mean, we already have time to ourselves, but I mean, just think about the possibilities. Once upon a time, we didn't have a microwave. We didn't have a stove. We didn't have a refrigerator. Think about the inconvenience that was. I mean, this really is the next layer. This frees us up to just have a higher quality of life. And again, the robots right now are going to be $20,000 a piece. But one day, once we get to scale, these are going to be totally affordable. And everyone will have them in their houses. And everyone will have them in their homes.
We have got to the point where literally anybody.
And this is going to be super basic, right? I mean, they are going to handle all of the simple tasks, but it's going to get rather sophisticated because there's going to be enough intelligence built in to know, hey, what should I do proactively for my human versus what are the basic needs of my human family? So let's get into the new technology that is currently being worked on. This is what they're calling the personal AI hub. Imagine something smaller than a phone that lives in your pocket, clips to your clothing, or sits on your belt like a modern beeper. It would have its own cellular connection, camera, microphone, speakers, memory, and AI processing capabilities, but no conventional touchscreen. Instead, it would communicate through whatever interface is available. Your earbuds when you're walking, your car display while driving. Yes, it would actually cast and leverage any display around you, your television when you're home, your computer while you're working, a projector when you need something visual, your household robot when something physical needs to be done. The same intelligence would follow you everywhere, remember your preferences, understand your surroundings, and operate other devices on your behalf. Think of it as an autonomous personal AI assistant that leverages the technology. It's all connected around you for a better and more seamless life. This is what they're talking about. And these are some renderings of potential products. Now let's check this video out, also from Hark.
We are witnessing a worldwide transformation. The dialogue between humans and machines is fundamentally shifting. Computers are now capable of thinking, and yet the way we are interfacing with them has remained the same. At Hark, we are building the most advanced personal intelligence in the world. A system that begins to think like you, and sometimes ahead of you, to offload your mental workload. Imagine a system that interacts with the world exactly as you do. Listening, speaking, seeing the world around it, building persistent memory, being proactive, and being able to touch and influence the world. We're crafting a new interface to artificial intelligence, a series of bespoke native hardware devices and agentic computers with end-to-end speech models and highly personalized memory. All of our systems are multimodal, capable of understanding and interacting in a natural way, built from the beginning with detail and ultimate care. Our ambitions are reflected in our incredible team. Our fingerprints already in everyone's hands, the services we use, and the interfaces we see, hear, and touch. Why do you think everyone needs it?
We're tied to technology today. We're like complete cyborgs, you know, tied to our devices. I can't even live without mine. Can't leave the house. I want to just free myself from that.
That was the CEO, Brett Adcock, and he was saying he wants to free himself from all of this technology because we're tied to it. And that's pretty much what the mission is. So these robots are definitely coming, but we're going to get a plethora of other devices. The next device that we'll explore are AI earbuds. Now, there are multiple companies working on this. There are rumors that Meta is working on it, Google, Apple. And earbuds already solve an important problem. People are willing to hear them, or people are willing to wear them for hours. The next generation could become a primary interface for artificial intelligence. You could quietly ask, who is that person? What did I promise Michael last week? Translate this conversation, move my 3 p.m. meeting, and move my 3 o'clock meeting, and notify everyone, or order what I normally buy, but find a lower price. The limitation is that audio cannot comfortably display photographs, maps, spreadsheets, documents, or video. Earbuds could eliminate a large amount of everyday phone usage, but they would still need to work with other visual interfaces. And again, that's where the whole interconnectedness comes into play. The next piece of technology might be an AI ring or bracelet. A ring or wrist device could recognize subtle finger movements, handwriting motions, muscle signals, location, and physical context. You might type on any surface without a physical keyboard. You might type on any surface like just in the air without a physical keyboard, point toward an object to ask about it, or make a small gesture to approve an AI recommendation. The device could also serve as your identity and security key. Your AI would know it was really you before spending money, accessing private information, unlocking a door, or controlling another machine. The fourth concept is an intelligent pendant. Companies have already attempted this. In 2024, a startup called Humane released the AI Pin, a small device that attached to your clothing. It used a camera, microphone, speakers, and a laser projector to provide some smartphone functions without a traditional screen. The product struggled with battery life, heat, latency, performance, and an interface that was not strong enough to replace the phone. Humane eventually stopped selling it. But that does not necessarily mean the concept itself was wrong. It may simply have arrived before the technology was ready. A more advanced pendant could understand your surroundings, recognize objects, remember authorized conversations, and communicate through an earpiece. Instead of attempting to Instead of attempting to recreate an entire smartphone on your hand, it could project onto nearby surfaces or use other available displays. The successful version of an AI pin may arrive when the technology becomes smaller, faster, and less noticeable. The next device might be a moving home companion. This would be a small screenless device containing cameras, microphones, speakers, and environmental sensors. Rumor has it that OpenAI is already working on one, and it may be released early 2027. It could move or turn toward you, follow conversations, control appliances, manage deliveries, answer questions, help children with homework, monitor the home, and communicate with different family members. It probably would not replace the phone when you leave the house, but it could eliminate much of the reason people pick up their phones while they are at home. Again, less reliance on our phones. The next concept is smart clothing. This hardware could disappear into collars, buttons, jackets, hats, watches, and shoes. Your collar could handle audio, a button could contain a camera, your bracelet could recognize gestures, your shoes could provide directions through vibrations. All of these components would communicate with the same personal AI. You would not necessarily carry one visible device. Your clothing and accessories would collectively become the interface. The practical question is whether people would tolerate charging, maintaining, and replacing electronic clothing. The next concept is projection everywhere. Instead of carrying a permanent screen, your AI could temporarily create one when you need it. A small personal device could project a map, keyboard, document, photograph, or video onto a table, wall, car dashboard, or even your hand. Cameras and depth sensors would follow your fingers and allow you to interact with the projection. When you need visual information, the interface appears. When you are finished, it disappears. A private heads-up display could handle situations where there is no suitable surface. The information would appear in your field of vision, even though nothing would actually be floating in the air. And look at that. We would just need a device that would be capable of casting a hologram. And of course, we would need a surface behind it. But if it could just cast it 1 foot in front of our faces, I mean, that's just incredible. The next concept is that the household robot becomes the device. Once a personal AI can control a humanoid robot, the intelligence no longer merely gives you instructions. It begins performing physical tasks. You could say, clean the kitchen. You could say, clean the kitchen. You could say, clean the kitchen. Find my wallet. Bring the groceries inside. Check whether I left the stove on. Pack what I normally take on a 2-day trip. The robot would become the physical extension of the same intelligence operating your calendar, messages, shopping, transportation, and home. It would not replace the phone by imitating it. It would replace many of the reasons we currently use the phone. The next concept are AI contact lenses. Contact lenses could eventually place navigation, translation, messages, identification, and contextual information directly into your vision without requiring conventional glasses. You could look at a building and see its address, look at a product and see its price, look down a street and see directions, speak with someone in another language and see a live translation. The engineering problems are enormous: power, heat, connectivity, eye safety, privacy, controls, and fitting the required components into something people can comfortably wear. So the hurdles are enormous. So the hurdles here are great. Would people actually adapt to using AI contact lenses? Not sure. But still, this is being worked on. The last concept we have are brain-computer interfaces. A brain-computer interface could allow a computer to interpret intention without requiring you to speak, type, tap, or swipe. Now we're talking next evolution. You could potentially compose a message, request information, control a machine, or interact with your personal AI through thought alone. Medical applications will probably develop first, helping people restore movement, communication, hearing, or vision. Consumer adoption would require people to trust the safety, security, and privacy of a direct connection between the brain and a computer. Yeah, we're talking about chips inside of here. The transition may begin with non-invasive headbands or sensors before moving toward more advanced interfaces. Across all 10 concepts, the direction is the same. The smartphone's functions become distributed across smaller devices, nearby surfaces, intelligent environments, and machines. The phone may remain with us for years, but we could gradually stop looking at it. And that's what's important here, because right now we're all doom scrolling. We can't get enough of this. It's a dopamine release. However, what they're saying the future of all of these products will become is us leveraging all of the technology around us so that we're less reliant on the wearables, on the laptops, on the phones. Eventually, if we actually install chips in our brains, I mean, it seems like the possibilities are endless. Would I do that? Probably not. But we do have a lot of dumb technology around us, right? I can only use my TV for watching television. Yeah, I could probably get on a browser. I could do some gaming. But what if I could just speak to my technology and have it cast everywhere? I could just say, hey, throw this whole screen on my TV, and I communicate with speakers that are all around me. I mean, we're talking about some super futuristic world, but it's coming. I mean, this is all coming. This projector where you can type on it, AI contact lenses, headgear, robots doing most of the mundane or rudimentary tasks for us. This is all coming. It's just a matter of time. Now, as far as the investment thesis, if you're going to invest in humanoid robots, Tesla is probably the best public direct investment. NVIDIA is probably the safest ecosystem investment. For AI devices, it's probably going to be Apple, best chance of owning the eventual consumer platform. They could also buy a company. Meta is the current commercial leader, but not necessarily the final winner. And then you have Alphabet for AI, Android, and the device ecosystem, Qualcomm, chip supplier across potential winners, and Amazon Home and Ambient AI, exposure. All right. The future sounds exciting. Thanks for watching. See you next time.